Hello, my friends. It's been a while since we've had an Ask Me Anything. Um, it's what can I say? it's it's been busy, but not necessarily busy with work. But I've been out of town and had mom stuff that I needed to do, and uh, life life gets lifey sometimes. So life has been lifey in the past month or so since last we came together. Um, Nonetheless, I am happy to be here with you, and I hope that you're doing well. I can't believe we're like almost halfway through October. Ah, it's crazy how fast this year has gone. Um, I Hi John, I'm so happy that you just popped right in there. Um, yeah, and I'm gonna get to your comment there. Um, I do want to acknowledge the difficulty going on this week. In Israel and my broken heart regarding all of that. And that is on my mind and on my heart, as I'm sure it is for all of you. And I'm just super mindful. And I'm a great supporter of Israel. Um, and I grieve with you. Um, so I just wanted to make mention of that. And and then what else? Um, Hi, Genevieve. So happy that you're here. Um, this is as John said. Well, I can I can I give kudos to my own topic? He's John. You say it's a great topic today, and I agree. um, sorry, sorry about that. It's a difficult topic, really, because there is no hard and fast rule about when one should throw in the towel. And I think what I want to really get at, and all in all, this should not be terribly long um, because while voiceover is a complex career, I don't think the answer to this question is muddy, believe it or not. Um, and I want to start by saying voiceover work right now is really hard. It's really difficult. Times are difficult in the voiceover world. Whether you're beginning or you're an intermediate voiceover person or you have been around for a long time, things are hard. The economy is difficult. AI is coming after us all, and that's very real. Um, there are The market, I would say, is flooded with voiceover talent. Um, the market is also, in a certain sense, flooded with more opportunity because we have different and new mediums through which voiceover comes to bear. Right? There used to be just three networks, and now there are hundreds of channels and all kinds of online, millions of websites out there with the potential of needing voiceover work. And, so there's a lot more opportunity, but the market is also flooded with people. If you've been in the business for a long time, you've been in it and you're coming back to it, it is a different world. And I know you know this intrinsically, right? To your core. You know this. It's what you're experiencing, right? It's a different world, and it's a harder world, I think, to navigate. So I just want to say to everybody, regardless of where you are not alone. And I see you. It is hard to find work in voiceover in the 21st century. Just is. I am going to remind you that if you're here to please say hello. Um, so, So how do you know whether you're having a slow year or whether your career has faltered to such a degree that you should throw in the towel? How do you know that? Everyone has slow years. Everyone. Everyone has periods of time where they must reevaluate themselves, what they're doing, how they're engaging their careers. We all have to ask ourselves those questions, particularly when work is slow, right? Hi, Tammy. Thanks for chiming in. Um, we all have to ask ourselves those questions. Hang on, I'm going to close my mail program. Um, are we auditioning at all? Um, are we coaching and training at all? Uh, are we, if we have clients or have had clients in the past, are we engaging them? Are we, so, and that really is just marketing, right? Are we engaging the clients we have now and have had in the past? Are we participating, right? These are the things that we need to evaluate, particularly when things are slow. I would say that a slow time provides you the opportunity to evaluate all of those things and really take stock in your career and find out really what's happening. Um, uh, and I'll say this, if you don't participate in your career, if you're not doing any of those things, if you're not auditioning, if you're not coaching, if you aren't reaching out, if you aren't doing any self development, you don't have a career. um, the thing that makes a career, the thing that makes you a voice actor is your participation in it, not how many bookings you have. Bookings are really, as I've said earlier, right? Just a minute ago, are really hard to come by. But that cannot be your only measure of whether you are progressing. Um, it can't be because we all go through slumps in work, all of us, right? I was on the AFTRA, the SAG-AFTRA website, looking at my pension credits. And, it gives a summary of my work, right? Over the years in terms of my earnings for each year, right? Like, I had some really, really bad years. Bad years. Like, I, I, how did I make my rent? I must have been married, and my spouse, had an income whereby, the rent could be paid, right? Because I sure wasn't paying it. Now, had I looked at that particular year while I was in the year and said, I'm not working, I'm not working, I'm not working, and just thrown in the towel, I would have thrown away a career. I would have thrown it away. Some of my best work that I've ever done, ever, the most interesting work, not necessarily the most lucrative, not by any means, but my most interesting, valuable work I have done in the last 3 years. I'm 61 years old. So if I had given up, if I had thrown in the towel when I made less than $5,000 in 2003, I would not have experienced some of the best work I've ever had. So, number one is, are you engaged in your career? And I don't mean are you booking? I mean, are you engaged? Are you learning? Are you growing? Are you reaching out? Are you cultivating relationships that may not come to fruition for another 3 to 5 years? Are you doing that? Right? Because if you are, then you are engaged in your career. You have a career that is actually moving. It may feel like a, you know, I was going to say an iceberg, but that's not what I mean. But like a glacier, right? My family lives in Alaska, and I have seen glaciers. And the thought they're standing still, these giant pieces of ice, coming down a mountain. They look perfectly still. They're not still. They're moving. They're active. They're alive. We just can't discern the movement in the moment, right? So you got to ask yourself those questions. And then here is the answer to the question. You throw in the towel when you want to throw in the towel. That's it. There's no possible answer other than that. You're done when you say you're done. Period. End of story. You say you're done. That's when you're done. Right? So one of my favorite character actors is Terry O'Quinn. I was a really big fan of Lost. Remember that series in the I think it ran like 2003 or 2004, 2003 to 2010, I think. I didn't watch it when it first came out. It was about the plane crash because I was so terrified of flying at the time, and I had just had a baby, and I was like, yeah, that's the last thing I need to see. I was all, had postpartum depression and anxiety. I'm like, I'm not watching anything that has anything to do with a plane crash. So anyway, I started watching it at the end of the series, like a year after the series had ended. And here's Terry O'Quinn, this actor whose name I didn't really know at the time, but whose face was very familiar. And man, was he good in this series, right? And so I did some digging online, about who this actor is, where he came from, what's he done. And in some article where he was interviewed, he talked about getting into his mid to late 40s and having done, some episodic television work and guest stars and, supporting roles and things like that. But he had never really, what he would say, he had never really made it. This is what we talk about as actors and voice actors, right? When am I going to make it? And so he had thought to himself, well, if I don't land some kind of a series regular, like a starring role or something, I'm done. I'm just gonna be done. And he named a particular age, and I don't remember what it was, if it was 50 or I'm not sure. But just after he had made this decision in his life, like, yeah, I think I'm gonna hang it up. He was asked by J.J. Abrams, who was the producer of Lost, if he would come in and read for the role. He actually didn't even want to audition him. He just offered him the role. And Terry O'Quinn was like, oh, well, that's nice. He didn't think that the series was going to go anywhere. But like, okay, I'll take a role. I'll take the role. Who knows what it's going to be? So he ended up being nominated for a Primetime Emmy 3 times. The first time he did not win. The second time he won a Primetime Emmy. He was nominated again and did not win that, but it altered his life and his career and the trajectory of his career. And so, he had made a decision, right? I'm going to quit. I'm going to be done. And had he quit before that call came in from J.J. Abrams, he would never have known the role that was for him the most celebrated. So if you find a modicum of joy in your voiceover work, in auditioning, in relating, in getting better at it, even through the slumps of not working, that matters. If you don't like any of this, if you're just like, yeah, I thought it was going to be a way I could make money, and I really can't make money, and I'm not all that excited about auditioning, and I don't really want to coach, and I feel like I know what I need to know, and this is all, it's all just a drag for you, that might be an indication that you're ready to hang it up. And there's no crime in that. Not at all. I have friends who made so much more money than I did, who were so much more successful than I was in the 90s in voiceover. Fantastic careers, ridiculous careers. They don't work in voiceover anymore because they stopped wanting to. They lost their desire to do it, to do what's necessary to keep your career going. They didn't want to anymore. And that's perfectly reasonable. It doesn't make you a failure at all. It's just a decision you make. Am I going to be in this career or am I not? But the only one who can, end your career as it were, or your career aspirations, is you. That's it. You. And I'll say this, we're all one day going to have our last voiceover job. We don't know when that is. We don't know when that is. It might be because, our time on earth is over. It may be because we just don't ever get another call. That's part of the challenge of the career, if you will. I hear people say it's kind of funny. It's kind of a funny thing. I particularly think about Rob Paulson when because he's been asked this before, and it's kind of his standard answer. When they in interviews and they say, "What's your favorite job?" And they're of course expecting him to say, Pinky, or his role in Animaniacs, or Carl Weezer, or something, some from Jimmy Neutron, or like these iconic roles, right? What's your favorite job? And his answer is the next one, which is, the connotation there is, I'm looking toward the next one. Like, I don't know if there'll be a next one. I'm hoping there's a next one, right? But the lull, and I know Rob's had many lulls, the lulls never stopped him from moving forward, from doing something, right? In pursuit of his career. I can say that about myself too. Again, I've had terrible years, years where I was like, where I asked the question, should I do something else for a living? Should I? And just hang this up. Genuinely asking myself, genuinely pondering this question, right? And I opted to dig in to coaching and training, and I did it inexpensively. And I kept moving forward. So I'm going to look at your comments and see what is happening, if anything, here. Let's see. Great topic. Hello. Hi, Christine. John, of course, everyone's circumstances are different, but I've heard a well-known and respected coach say that if you haven't gotten some substantial traction by year 3, you need to evaluate whether VO is right for you. Christine, just talking about the engagement piece this morning, and then your video popped up. Thank you for the confirmation. Good, good. John, let me say this, and I don't. Um, I'm not. I don't know which coach it was. You don't have to tell me. It doesn't matter. Um, but I respectfully say that's his or her opinion, right? Particularly in the kind of climate that we're in voiceover now. 3 years is a long time. It's true. It's a long time. Like, I totally get that. What's the definition of traction? What does that mean? In whose world, right? Traction in the realm of agency representation is very different than traction on Voice 123. Is very different than traction when you are developing a career strictly through marketing. It's very, very different. What kind of career do you want? What piece of the voiceover business are you working in, or are you attempting to work in? Um, and even if a prominent casting director says, if you haven't had any traction in 3 years, you should hang it up. That's not up to that casting director to say that about you and your particular circumstance, who you are, where you are, what realm of voiceover you're working in, um, and and how often you're working in it or not. It is entirely up to you. I'm not saying that it's entirely possible that someone could spend all of their time in voiceover dabbling, if you will, not getting very much work. Um, that's entirely possible for all the reasons that I named before, right? It's really hard to find work. The market is flooded. Um, AI is killing us all. Um, I think that is an old paradigm answer, if you will. That if you don't have traction in 3 years, it's never going to happen for you. I feel like that's an old paradigm. That's from the paradigm of voice actors are all represented by talent agencies in New York, Chicago, or LA. Um, and it's a brand new world. It's a brand new world with all kinds of circumstances, like not impeding, but I guess impeding, all kinds of things coming at us that are so different than 25 years ago. So, so I understand that in a certain context, right? I don't know. I feel like I'm a dinosaur, and so to a certain degree, I feel like if I didn't work for 3 years, my agency would probably hang on to me just you know, just because they don't want to throw an old girl out to pasture. You know what I mean? But I do understand that if a person in their 20s, 30s, 40s, it hasn't got is represented by a talent agency and doesn't book anything in 3 years, that agency will very likely drop you. Does that mean that's the end of your career? Only if you decide it is, because there are so many other ways to pursue voiceover work. So, again, I think that is it's an old perspective for an old paradigm, and it's also one that is based in it's based in a certain piece of reality, but it's not based in any sense of positivity or abundance or possibility, to get away from sort of the buzzwords, abundance and all that. Sometimes it's just not abundant. you know, but there's possibility, right? So that's not a view that it is realistic if you want to. It's pessimistic. But I just will always come back down to you're the one who decides when it's over. You are. And in saying that, I don't mean to say that golly, if you stick with it for 10 years, eventually it'll turn around and you'll make a lot of money in voiceover. That is not what I mean at all. At all. Voiceover for you might only be a thing where you make a little bit of money here and there and it's not your career. I used to be a singer. I had dreams of having a record deal. And when I was 19, I had a demo deal at CBS Records, right? That was my dream. I wanted to be a recording artist. I wanted to make records and I wanted to tour. And I wanted to write songs. That is what I wanted to do. I don't do that. I barely sing today at all, but I'm still a singer. I'm a singer. I will always be a singer, always, to my core. I will always be a singer. And if opportunities present themselves for me to sing, I will take them. Some of them, not all of them, right? Because I understand my limitations as a singer now at my age, and having not cultivated it and developed it really seriously over the years once I kind of gave it up as a career. But I will never give up singing, ever. Even if it means I'm only going to sing in the church choir. I'm a singer. So it just depends, right? On how you view voiceover and what it is to you. And it may be that you need to make a decision to say, and many of us do already, and I think it's really, really wise, right? Is that, we have to earn a living right now doing something else while I pursue this thing. And maybe you will look back on your career and your life and go, you know what? That's how that played out. And I got to do voiceover as a side hustle. How fortunate, you know? Just all depends upon how you look at it, truly. Um, um, Susan, what would you do if you weren't a working voice actor? Are you doing any successful side hustles? I'm so close to retirement that I can't even think in terms of side hustles. But I'll tell you this, if I right now I think I would, if I needed some income right now, I would do my best to try to find myself a bartending gig. It's not crazy, but I would. Um because I like people, but I like a barrier between me and people. I'd like some space. Um, I think by and large, people come into restaurants, to have a good time. And so most people who, are coming in for cocktails are happy. I have bartended before, so I do know all of this for firsthand, right? And then the other thing is, when you leave your job at the end of the day, you don't take it home with you. It's like you leave it, you walk away, and you go. So I think that's what I would probably do, Susan. Um, but again, I'm so close. I'm so close to retirement. Um, I cannot give you tax advice. I have no idea about that tax question. I have no idea. Um, that's a good one for your accountant, which, my accountant is retiring this year. So I'm on the lookout for a new accountant. Um, excuse me. Okay, I said this wasn't going to be a long one, but of course I ramble on. Um, so let me just recap. Okay, voiceover in the 21st century is really, really hard. Things are coming at us. They're coming at all of us. And if you are not working right now, you are not alone. You are not alone. All right, it's hard. And the difficulty of it can really wear on you. It can really wear on your sense of yourself, your sense of whether or not you are talented, whether or not you matter. So I just want to say to you that you matter, okay? You matter. And and I see you. And I wish I could change the whole business, and take it back to pieces, to a time when it felt much more prosperous for anybody involved. I wish that. I wish that for all of us. And you decide. Having agency in your life, making decisions about your life is, I think, one of the most important capacities that we can develop, right? It's your life. It is your career. You get to decide. And all you got to do is read letters from music business executives to people like, Billy Joel and James Taylor, and saying, thanks, but no thanks. Where would we be if those remarkable artists had believed somebody in a position of authority in the music business? If Clive Davis turned you down and you went, oh, well, Clive Davis said I don't really have it, so I'm going to hang it up. Where would we be without all of these artists who refused to be deterred by someone who says, if you haven't done anything in 3 years, hang it up? I can't go there. It's up to you. There's no promise. There's no guarantee of a particular income. There's no guarantee about anything. But you have agency. You get to decide. You matter. All right? And that is what I'm going to leave you with. So, trust and be brave. Sometimes I think that's a really stupid moniker. No, it's so, I don't know, mushy. And then sometimes I think, oh my God, it's so hard to trust. And it is so hard to be brave in our everyday lives, in the little things that matter to us, and that we think that the rest of the world could not give a rat's ass about, right? But they matter to us, and our little acts of bravery matter. They matter. So that's all I will say before I get really worked up and start to get verklempt, because it's one of those days. And I'm going to go to yoga. That's what I'm going to do. And I hope you have a really great day, and I hope that you'll feel free to, if you're watching this on replay, post your comments and your questions, in the thread, and feel free to reach out to me in any way you can find me. So be well, everyone, on this Tuesday, October 10th. All right. Mwah. I cherish you all.